I've been dancing since I was 5 or 6, so that's 12 or 13 years. Originally, I started off mainly with modern, lots of modern in dance lab. And then when I got older, I did more ballet, did tap, jazz, even hip hop, and some other random forms of dance out there as well. I've been making up dance moves for quite some time now, either for recitals or the annual lip sync contest or whatever else just happens to come along. I don't know if I'd call it choreography until I was at a more advanced level. It was more like creative movement when I was really small. But whatever I decide to call it, it all fits under the category of dance, my most beloved activity. Dance has many meanings for different people. For some, it's a form of exercise, a good release for stress. For others, it's a way to let loose and have fun with friends. And for many, it's how people believe they can truly express themselves. You can find dance practically everywhere. It brings people together for entertainment, competitions, events, and whatever just happens to come along. When I began making a structure for my study, I had plenty of ideas. Originally, I wanted to make pieces in jazz, modern, ballet, tap, and clogging, but the struggle of senior year, as well as the fact that there's only 24 hours in a day, stood in my way. I mean, honestly, what was I thinking? Instead, I compromised on 3 styles: modern, ballet, and clogging, all of which are already broad categories to choose from. At Hailstone Dance Studio, they give you a lot of opportunities to choreograph things when you're young. So I'm very lucky to have that opportunity because not many dancers do. Most are told what to do by their teachers. They don't have much of a say over their choreography, although some teachers can be very lenient, which is nice, but I really wanted to have the control to do what I want, to use what music I wanted, and to really let my creativity flow. Before I ever began choreographing, I just began to practice. I'd go to the studio whenever I had the time, mainly weekends and late nights after regular class. After all this, I began researching a lot, mainly choreographers and ballets, and also getting inspiration from others.
So when I'm making work, I generally use thought processes that pull from research. I consider choreography sort of a manifestation of research. It's embodied research for me. And so it usually comes along with something that I'm really interested in, that I'm reading about. And then I start to think about ways that I can nuance that material through showing it with my body. Either that means exploring it with my body or kind of presenting it.
Oh, my mama told me.
In the early 20th century, modern dance became popular as many people decided to rebel against the classical ballet framework. I researched and watched many famous choreographers who were the pioneers of modern dance. The first two well-known dancers to start the movement were Isadora Duncan and Ruth St. Denis. As time went on, more dancers hit the scene like Martha Graham, José Limón, and Kathryn Dunham. I took an interest in a lot of Martha Graham's work because her style is so unique and her work is fairly easy to find on the internet, as her company is still around today.
Don't you eat of a bitter fruit, hunger only for a taste of justice.
Her notion of expanding and contracting was a device I played around with many times in my choreography.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. And I knew if I had my chance that I could make those people dance, and maybe they'd be happy for a while. But February made me shiver with every paper I deliver. Bad news on the doorstep, I couldn't take one more step. I can't remember if I cried when I read about his widowed bride, but something touched me deep inside the day the music died. So bye-bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. And them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die. Did you write the book of love, and do you have faith in God above? If the Bible tells you so, do you believe in rock and roll? Can music save your mortal soul? And can you teach me how to dance real slow? Well, I know that you're in love with him, 'cause I saw you dancing in the gym. You both kicked off your shoes. Man, I dig those rhythm and blues. I was a lonely teenage bronc and buck with a pink carnation and a pickup truck, but I knew I was out of luck the day the music died. I started singing bye-bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye and singing, this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die. Now for 10 years we've been on our own.
Knowing I had tried and failed in the past to increase my flexibility, I decided seeing my improvement would help me to stay motivated. So for the past 3 months, I charted my progress. The two graphs show how my flexibility improved over time with inches from the ground on the y-axis. The graph above shows my right, which eventually made it to 0 inches from the ground, and below my left, which unfortunately only made it to 1 inch above the ground. Consistency was key. If I ever missed a day, I was set back for the next, or if I had stretched earlier in the class that day, my splits would be better that night. One of the most unique experiences I've had was doing site-specific dancing. I found the idea of performing a dance in different settings fascinating, so I decided to try it out myself. After choreographing a dance in the studio, I performed it in 9 different settings around Lexington. Ballet originated in the Italian Renaissance as primarily a form of entertainment for royals. Movements were fairly simple then, but as many people know, ballet would later grow into the physically intense, technically difficult style of dance that it is today. Missy Floyd, the director of Shenandoah Ballet, and my wonderful mentor, choreographed the Nutcracker that her students perform each year, and she also choreographs entire ballets for us to do in the spring.
Choreography is definitely inspired by a variety of things. Obviously, I have a group of dancers, I have individual dancers, and I have groups of dancers. For me, a lot of what I see comes from them. I mean, I'm here in front of a bunch of people every day, kids, young adults, even adults, older adults. So to choreograph for an individual, usually that for me forces me to look at their style, look at their movement style, look at their strengths, look at their weaknesses, and discover what is going to challenge them.
The only experience I have choreographing for ballet would have to be when I was really young, maybe elementary school. I would take the Harry Potter soundtracks and make up little dances to them in my living room. Sometimes I use that music to inspire me to make new moves for my pieces now as well. When I set out to choreograph for ballet, I came to several halts because it's the style of dance that I have the least amount of experience choreographing with. Due to the presence of an extra bone in my ankle, I could no longer go on point without my ankles swelling up in pain. This posed a few challenges as to what looked better in flat shoes rather than what looked good in point shoes, and I had to learn to work around this. When I got into the studio to choreograph, I noticed I was doing some of the same moves repeatedly, which produced bland choreography. My piece didn't excite me like some others I'd made before.
The idea of one choreographer just kind of falling back into a comfort zone of setting the same steps or combinations of steps is a challenge for anyone. I think you have to derive things from looking at other people's work, and then try and fail, try and fail, try and fail, and keep going.
After observing the work of professionals and watching a few ballets, I knew I needed inspiration for my piece. When I found some, I noticed my dancing improved. The ballet dance I made was inspired by the drive I take to my studio each day. Consisting of a dull route on the bypass which opens up to the Blue Ridge Mountains which frame Buena Vista, the view sneaks up on me every time and constantly changes. I tried to mirror the sudden change in my dancing. One of the best reasons to use film to present this independent study is because I could pick and choose the best shots for each dance. However, my dancing is far from perfect, and more often than not, my dancing looks bad for quite some time before things get to the place I want them to be. And trust me, I have plenty of evidence to prove this. Clogging is an expressive style of American dance with origins in the folk dances of the British Isles, Africa, and pre-Columbian America. Settlers in the American South took elements of these styles to form a unique American dance style, Appalachian clog dancing. I teach a clogging class with my best friend Annalise. We teach 2 clogging classes, one for a group of younger kids, elementary school age, and another for a group of middle to high schoolers. Both classes present different ways of thinking, different ways of challenging me as a choreographer, coming up with easier and harder steps, but it's really made me focus on who I'm choreographing for, and that's really important to take notice of who is actually going to do the dance when you make it. What can they do? What can they not do? What do you want to show off? What do you think you should hold back on because people aren't getting it? But honestly, it's just been so nice teaching all of them. I find such joy in teaching these kids, and in turn, they give it right back. Watching other clogging pieces on the internet and attending 2 national clogging conventions helped me to create pieces. Here's part of one that Annalise and I choreographed together for a Halloween performance. Taking on this independent study was a challenge and a joy. The process of creating pieces could be lengthy at times and very frustrating most days. I found that my mental state at the time could affect the work produced, but I tried to use this to my advantage. I feel through research, inspiration, and trial and error, I learned a lot about the choreographic process. Nothing's more rewarding than dancing in something you created and really enjoying it. And when something works, you feel it. And I think that shows up in your dancing. Dancing for me is freedom every time. I know very well that I will never be up to par with the real dancers of this world, the ones we admire and adore, but I do know I have enough technique to let go and feel the movement. It's not always easy or comfortable to dance full out with your heart on your sleeve, but it is exhilarating.
Nothing but a slow